Welcome to the Draw Phase. It's a new podcast that we're doing alongside me and Jibs UK, Alex Harrison, that you can see in the middle of the screen. I actually forgot to record the first minute and a half of my microphone, so that's why you see my mouth is out of sync. And joining us is, like I said, Jibs, Alex, and also George. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we'll go from there.
Hey, thanks for that. So I come from a Warhammer background, Warhammer 40,000. This is actually my first TCG. So yeah, pretty excited to get involved in that. Working with Jacob with videos and production and hopefully in the future we'll be doing more, which we'll hopefully be going over at some point either in this podcast or a future podcast. So yeah, it's a big introduction to me, and it's great to have someone like George to give some insight into the competitive scene. Which is new to myself, and I'm not sure about you, Jacob, but for me, I'm super excited to hear more from a top player like George. So, yeah, and I'll pass it over to George. George, tell us more about yourself.
Hello, everyone. You've probably seen me around social media and stuff for Riftbound because I was crazy enough to fly to China to compete in the Chinese regional tournaments. In the first one, I got top 8, and then I got top 64, and then I managed to win the third Chinese regional event. And so, I was excited to play Riftbound, made the leap. Usually good at games when they come out. So I decided, earlier the better for me. So I traveled all the way to China and I played, and I guess that's what we're here to talk about.
One thing that is also super interesting, you did play a lot of different TCG games before. So could you tell us a little bit about that? Maybe your time playing Lorcana, Pokemon, and stuff like that?
I would say most people would say I played a year of those games each, but I think realistically I played 6 months. Pokemon I played a few months after. I was playing a Pokemon mobile game, and then I decided to play Pokemon TCG for a year and travel. And I qualified for Worlds within 4 months in the point system. I was locked. And then I got lazy in Pokemon. I played Worlds, but mostly for fun. I didn't really prepare. Then I picked up Lorcana after that because I figured, I'd have more luck in a new game. I had a lot of friends that had played Pokemon, and they played Pokemon for 15 years. And though catching up is possible, it didn't seem like the best thing to do as an older guy playing the game. So I decided to play some Lorcana, and I had a lot of success. I won for a brief time the largest tournament in that game. Got my nationals invite as soon as the DLCs started, the regional events. And I qualified for nationals, and I got bored of Lorcana too, and I no-showed nationals. So that's my TCG history, but hopefully Riftbound, we stick with it a bit longer.
I'm curious when you actually started, because the announcement for Riftbound was, I believe, end of last year, correct? So when did you start sort of playing and prepping in preparation for the release?
So I still have a lot of close Pokemon friends, and I was at the Pokemon National Tournament, the NAIC, in the United States. It was in California, I think. Maybe it wasn't in California. It was in New Orleans. And one of my friends bought the demo decks. That was July of this year, I think. Maybe it was June. I don't remember, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. But yeah, he brought the demo decks, and I was winning a lot of games with the demo decks. And I was like, oh, this game is good. I'm winning. So
that does help.
Bit of a bias there, yeah. But I had a fun time playing, and then started playing on TTS on the simulators. And I was like, oh, man, I just want to play a tournament. So I flew to China, and the rest is history, I guess.
Now, another question, because you said you literally just picked up, went to China, just started competing, and you did that before for other card games, just straight up went, joined them, did really well. How do you kind of balance that? How do you just get the opportunity to just kind of, get up there, just travel somewhere, spend 2 months competing? Is there anything holding you back, or are you just full sending everything?
I would say that I have a general demeanor where when I feel it's time to do something, I send it 300%. So I don't think about anything else. So listening to the same 3 songs in the shower every morning in China, and just on a routine, playing 2 tournaments a day, eating the same meal every day, just complete focus on the game essentially. And I'm like that with a lot of games where I get once I'm locked in, and I think it's part of why in my story, and it's something I have to manage better with Riftbound. It's why there's the burnout stage, right? The quick Pokemon Worlds qualification, and then the burnout. And same with Lorcana. I was top cutting every single Lorcana tournament. The starting trajectory looked like this, and then all of a sudden, I just I just wasn't enjoying the game anymore. So something I have to ask myself. But if you're asking me if there's anything holding me back, no. Like I full send stuff and I deal with the consequences.
Okay. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, and ultimately, like you've gone from pretty, in my opinion, quite high competitive background in a different card game. So I guess that comes natural. The next thing that you're going to do, you're probably going to go straight to that level. I know it's the same for myself. If I'm competing or doing well at something, I want to kind of stick to that sort of level or try and get to that level. So what made you sort of make the jump? I mean, you mentioned there that you burnt out from the last game. Was it a case of you trying to find a new game like Riftbound, and what kind of made you potentially like latch on to Riftbound specific?
Um, I like card games now because they allow me to travel, and I'd never been to China, for example, and that's the the goal started to take shape like organically. I would say it's not like I was like, oh, I need a new game to be the best at or like compete at or whatever. Like it's like I started playing Riftbound. It was fun. I found out there's going to be tournaments in China. I'd never been to China, and my testing was going really well. And that's another thing. Like I was testing with top TCG players, and I was winning a lot of games. So it was a realistic goal to go to China and win an event. Obviously, there's variants in card games, but you can find dozens of screenshots of in the official Discord and like me in DMs with like some of the community members being like, "I'm going to go to China and I'm going to win a tournament." And starting to believe in that mindset too. It's something a lot of my friends talk about. Just the idea of like visualizing what you want to do and getting it done. And yeah, I wouldn't say that Riftbound was like something that I was looking forward to in the super long term, but it came up at a time when I was feeling that type of motivation, and we got the job done.
Sick. And
Awesome. Well done.
one thing as well, you played in some of the locals as well, right? Like in the Statica Forest, is it the name of the shop, I think?
I played at Statica Forest.
Yes, yes.
That's a popular store in
Hmm.
Beijing, and everyone knows that one in the West because they have that website.
Ah.
So when I was in Beijing, I was like, okay, we got to
Hmm.
go over there. And I played the Rune Night. It was the first Rune Night, which is if you play Lorcana, it's kind of like a set champs or something, but not really. Like
And
it's
you
like
won
a
it, right?
weekly. Yeah, I won that. That was like 40 players, 50 players or something. That was right before Beijing, and
Hmm.
the Friday, and then the Saturday I top cut, and then I unfortunately lost in top 64, but in a way that helped me later. We'll explain.
Hmm.
We'll get to that
Okay,
later when we
okay.
talk about my finals game.
Well, I'm going to be
Interesting.
in Beijing in a week and a half, so I'm definitely going to go to that shop and try and play. But the only thing I'm worried about is I don't yet know every single card. From like the top decks, like a Kaiser deck, Master Yi deck, like Darius deck, I will know. But if someone pulls out some like random cards that I just haven't experienced or played, I'll just be like, yep, just do whatever you want to do. I'll trust you, you know?
There's some times where I had to consult like the numbers on the card
Mm-hmm.
to remember exactly what
Mm-hmm.
it did. I've my card browser open on my monitor
Ah,
here, and I'm like scrolling, and I'm looking like, what is there a card I wouldn't know?
I guess would
If,
players have a problem? I guess people wouldn't have a problem if you were to just like search up what the card does in English, right? I think they'd be okay with that as
yeah,
long
you
as you do
can
it
you
pretty
can just
fast.
you can just ask a judge, to be
Ah,
honest. But
amazing.
I think you're underestimating your own ability
Mm-hmm.
to know what the cards do once you see them.
Mm-hmm.
This is a question I got a lot in China. Actually, the players are like, "How can you play if you don't speak Chinese?" And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"You could do it too. If you were playing with English cards, you would just you're mostly using the picture. You're not reading a card
Yeah.
when someone plays it,
Mm.
Yeah.
realistically, unless you're like a beginner. I think maybe like overt operation. I would have to look up or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think from so many streams you did so far, and I'm usually doing the production, so I have to search up a card and then put it on the screen. Most of the time, I'm like, they just played this card, and I just remember which one it is, type it in. But when I first started, I would have to like look through the pictures, look for the name, type it in, and it was so difficult. So actually, for like people who watch back the YouTube videos we have, it was pretty slow at the start, and now it's just like, they're playing Defy, they're playing Stupefy, and we already have that ready. And I even just prepare the cards they're about to play before they're even played, because you just know eventually. And technically, there's not that many cards in a deck if you think about it. It's like maybe what 13
13
to
or so.
15. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then just 3 times copies of those. And then once you play enough games, you just pretty much remember everything. So it does become pretty simple. So I guess that's pretty nice. And from that, I want to segue into how did you feel when you were playing in China against players there? Like, did you feel welcome? How was the experience? How was just the overall, like treatment that you got? Because From what I know from a few friends who've been before and played in, not specifically Riftbound, but in other games, they said they had a great time and it was awesome.
So a friend of mine actually encouraged me to go. He played Pokemon there.
Mhm.
He's a big Pokemon player, and so that gave me some confidence. And then I showed up, and everyone was so kind. Like from the first local, I actually found that the Chinese players were even more. I had some like expat friends there, like two guys that I went to the first local with, and I actually found when I would go on my own, people were even nicer to me versus when I was with like my group. People were more likely to adopt me and sort of like show me around when I was going solo. And the Chinese players were really kind. Can't overstate how welcoming they were. I think if the shoe was on the other foot, if they were playing in the United States without with my level of equivalent English skills to my Chinese skills or whatever, I think people would be more rude to me in the U.S. That's not to like talk down on
Mhm.
Americans or anything like that, but the experience was exceptionally welcoming. So in that regard, I was really happy, especially after I top eight in Guangzhou, because they put you on when you top eight, you get put on stage, and everyone recognized me after that. So from that point on, like the players in China were extremely welcoming, and I won't say it's based on my results, but the results definitely didn't hurt. Like everyone knowing who I was and wanting to talk to me and stuff like that made it a lot easier to make friends.
Were you the only Western player there? Was it just all Chinese nationals, or in the local area, or were you?
I
Did you have
was
friends that came as well?
I was the only apparent Western player at all of the events but one. I believe there were some like Chinese Americans that were like
Mhm.
in China at the time, and they just decided to do it among or like Canadians among other things. But those guys blend in. The people don't really know they're foreigners. So yeah, I would say I was the only obvious foreigner. There's a guy Steven at the event I won,
Mhm.
and he just did the same thing. He wanted to play Riftbound, so he flew to China. He was like a competitive player, I don't think. He like just loves card games, and this guy flew. I mean, I think that's even crazier than what I did. I flew to. He just flew for the love of the game. He wasn't even planning to win. He showed up. He went like X4 or whatever, and he was having a good time. So I don't know, like if I could respect to Steven, because that's even more to me.
That
That's
is
even
respectful.
more. Yeah, that's even more crazy than what I did. I feel like, but he was having. He was happy. He went to Hot Pot. He was telling me stories. Basically, his experience was the same as mine. Everyone was very welcoming, and he had a fun time.
Now, the most important question was the hot pot spicy? Because
I'm gonna be honest with you.
I'm terrible with spicy food, and
You
I'm
don't have
scared.
to. You don't have to get it spicy. You get a choice, don't you?
Yeah,
of
but I
the-
feel like
of
if I
the-
say not spicy, it's still gonna be spicy.
So if you go to Chongqing Hot Pot, which is
Mhm.
the big joke with the hot pot when I was there, is the event I won is Chongqing, and their hot pot is spicy, and it's community. Like you don't order your broth. You go to the restaurant, and there's this thing. You can tell it's gonna be spicy when you walk in, because there's this bowl like this, right, and it's just full of like red pepper.
Oh
And
no.
so this Steven comes back into the story here. Actually, some of my friends from Guangzhou they met Steven, and they took him to hot pot the night before I won. And so I won, and they were like, "Let us take you to hot pot." And apparently, Steven was dying from the hot pot, like how spicy it was. And they were getting a kick out of it. They were enjoying like torturing the white guy or whatever. And so they thought they were going to do the same thing to me after I won. But apparently, people from Guangzhou also struggle with spicy food. Like they don't like. I'm just repeating what I'm told in China. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they take me, and they think, oh, we're all going to be dying of the heat from the hot pot, and they're going to laugh, and we're going to have fun. But I actually love spicy food, so it was nothing to me.
Oh no.
And not a flex, obviously, but it's just like funny because they brought me to like see my reaction to the hot pot, and then I was laughing at all of them dying because they were not able to
Backfired.
handle it. Yeah, it backfired a bit. It was a fun night at Chongqing Hot Pot. There was a brain on the table.
Oh.
That was for me. That was intimidating.
Mhm.
Obviously, we
Yeah.
have different tastes, but there's some like
I've
all kinds of organs and stuff, and that they were getting me with that part where I was like, oh man, I don't
Mhm.
know about this. Like, where are my chicken nuggies? Like type of vibe. Yeah, I mean, I
I've
had a
tried
fun
the
time at Hot
brain.
Pot.
I've
Was it
tried the
good?
brain. No. It wasn't as bad as you'd think.
Mhm.
The texture is what really, and obviously the thought of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, it looks like
yeah.
a cartoon brain. Like it looks like they're messing with you.
Literally,
Like, in the bowl, it literally looks like a cartoon brain. It's exact. Like you see a heart, right? You see someone's
Yeah.
heart. It doesn't look anything like how you would imagine a heart.
Yeah.
No.
Like you see the brain. It literally looks like a cartoon brain.
Yeah.
Like
It's just when they slam it down on the table, you're just like, where did you get that from? Who's this that? Do they need it?
it looks like an emoji, like the brain. It's really weird.
Yeah, literally.
So
Another question I want to ask as well. The process for joining those tournaments, since obviously there's going to be the new tournaments coming up in the US. How was the process of you signing up for the tournaments in China? How did like the wait list work and stuff like that? Because I know a lot of people were applying.
I'm under the impression that the Western tournaments will be different. That's
Mhm.
as a sort of disclaimer before I start explaining.
Mhm.
But we used a program called WeChat. It's an phone application, and you have to have your passport linked to your WeChat, and then again in the Riftbound app within WeChat. So WeChat has this like sub environment with a bunch of things called mini apps in there, and one of them is the Riftbound mini app. Okay, and then you again register your passport and your real ID, like you scan your face and stuff with the Riftbound app. So it's one person to one Riftbound account because you got your passport number and your face saved to that thing. Then the tournament is posted within the Riftbound mini app, and you sign up to be lotteried in. So you sign up for a chance to get in. The catch about my run is that I knew weeks before that I was not actually in the first tournament or the second tournament before traveling there. However, there's a last minute lottery that you can sort of try to get into from the people who no-show or invited through the app. So I arrived in Guangzhou the first tournament with no guarantee that I'd be able to play. And so you're like just sitting in this penned off area waiting for spots. And not to go on a long rant, but I think this actually influenced the tournaments being more competitive in China as well. Not to say anything of the stream games, because those were tough to play on stream there with the way they have it set up. But what was happening is like you'd have 250 people from the initial sign-up wave in the tournament, and then you'd have like the 250 guys crazy enough to show up to the tournament last minute to try to get in, right? So essentially you have like 250 grinders just by default, because those, you're not going to show up to a tournament you're not invited to unless you're really committed to the game. And so then I think what was happening in the tournaments is, this is a whole long rant, but 250 people, like half the tournament was late registrants, or like non-lotteried folks that got in the last minute, and half the tournament was the pre-lottery people. And the sweats that would travel to the tournament without the invite probably were winning their round one, and then from then on you were seeing those guys for the rest of the tournament, right? So the tournaments are fairly competitive. I expect that we won't have a lottery in the West, but I suppose we'll find out on October 6th.
Well, Alex is going to hopefully be going, Jibs, so hopefully there's no lottery just so he can get in 100%, because imagine flying all the way there and then just not getting in. And I feel like the fact that you went without the guarantee to be in shows the commitment as well, and you full sending it. And then it managed to work out in the end. And look where we are now, which is absolutely sick.
Yeah. I was fully sunk cost at that point. I had my visa and everything already. I was just going one way or another. I was going to go and sit there sad if I had to.
I mean,
I couldn't.
Yeah, you
I
go on,
couldn't do
Jibs.
that. No, I was just gonna say I couldn't risk flying that far not knowing I'm entering a tournament, or even let's say a concert or an event, anything in general. That would just play on my mind and I mean, I don't suffer from anxiety, but I think I would start suffering from anxiety just from that. And yeah, it would. I mean, fair play to you. I think at the end of the day, though, I guess you could make full use of it. There was numerous tournaments there, side events, I guess. Of course, you want to go there to compete in the main event, which is what you went for. So yeah, happy days that you got into those. But what I'm curious to know, would it have been quite frustrating if you didn't get into those events, or would you have just used that as a catalyst to leap over to the next event and go, you know what, I'll just practice, I'll go to these smaller events or whatever, and focus on enjoying my holiday or whatever, and then go to the next event if I can?
I would have been frustrated, obviously, if I didn't get to play. I'm only human. If I flew to China and I didn't get to play the game, I would be sad. But I had faith that I would get to play and have a good time. So I was having fun in China regardless. I needed to get out of the house. I was sitting around too much. So yeah, I think I would have been okay whether or not I got in. But the timeline where I get in is, of course, a lot more fun. So I'm glad that happened.
So I do have a question as well in terms of, I guess, the culture as well. So obviously you said you played before, like Pokemon, Lorcana and stuff, and then it was your first time visiting China. How was the TCG culture there compared to in America, you would say? So like, let's say
Hmm.
playing against an opponent, um, maybe let's say you would miss something or do something that you forgot, and then the opponent would be like, no, you can't take that back. How
Hmm.
does that kind of differ in the West versus in China, would you say?
It's tough to say because my experience wasn't as a Chinese player in China, right?
Mm-hmm.
My experience was as a foreigner. I don't know what my experience as a foreigner in the United States would be like. I
Mm-hmm.
know I've personally, like when there's language barrier at IC for Pokemon or whatever, I give the person a lot more leeway than I would if they were first language English speaker. So I would say pretty typical. The first tournament, the first two tournaments were quite lax actually. We're being very understanding. Then for some reason in the tournament that I won, as early as top 64, I had someone try to ankle shoot me. So I would say about the same.
Okay.
But with that said, the Chinese players were really kind to me in
Mm-hmm.
general. So uh,
Just just to step in, just to from someone from outside of a TCG, and perhaps for viewers that don't know, what exactly do you mean by angle shooting?
um, there's various definitions of angle shooting, but it's like trying to use like the rules or the circumstances in the tournament, like in a live TCG tournament, in a way that your opponent would not expect usually to gain an advantage through the penalty system usually. So in this case, my opponent played a Mundo, um, and then like gestured to me that his turn was over, right? And then he watched me on top all my stuff slowly. And the moment I drew my card, he called the judge and said, "Judge, I didn't pass my turn. My opponent just drew an extra card on like." And I was like, "Yeah, he passed." He like gestured that he passed. And then we're having an argument about whether or not he passed his turn. One of the judges happened to see me untap really slowly and draw my card. So he was like, "Oh, the guy had a big chance to stop him, and or like a breath of time to stop him from drawing his card because he saw him untap and ready his runes and stuff, and he chose not to stop him until he drew. So that helped the
Mm.
ruling go in my favor. My opponent didn't get penalized for the angle shooting though. He just got to finish his turn. During his turn, he just immediately ended his turn after the judge called. So it was really not a good look
Yeah.
in that particular instance. But bad apples exist everywhere, so it wasn't like a Chinese tournament thing. But yeah, that would be like an example of angle shooting, right? You go like this,
Right.
you pretend like you're passing, and then you go,
Yeah.
"I didn't pass." And then like when
Yeah.
the judge asks
Okay.
you, when the judge asks you, "Did you gesture?" You're like, "Oh, not really," right, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I was no,
So
I was
you
just playing
got
my Mundo.
you got quite potentially lucky with the judge seeing you. Would that have been a difficult situation if the judge didn't see? Do you think that would have caused further issues? I mean, I guess you could, for instance, claim a language barrier there, but I'd be curious to know
Well,
what do you think would have been the outcome if the judge didn't see?
I still think they would have just reversed the draw and randomized my deck. I don't think the guy would have been successful in what he was trying to do, regardless if the judge saw me or not. I have a lot
Mm.
of experience with those situations as a TCG player at this stage. I was just going to maintain that my opponent passed his turn, um, and then allow the judges to make their ruling. So I knew he passed.
Mhm.
So to have an argument about how clearly he gestured or whatever, I knew he passed and waited for me to start my turn. So the judge would ask me, he asked me several times, like, "Did your opponent say he didn't pass?" I'm like, "Well, he passed." Right? And then you allow the judge to make their decision.
Okay.
Because if your opponent's trying to cheat, he's going to say with certainty that he did not pass, right? He's not going to say, "Well, it might have looked like I passed,"
Mm-hmm.
right? But I didn't, and I understand how my opponent made a mistake. He's not going to say that if he's angle shooting, right? So you just have
Mhm.
to tell your story the way that you remember it happening, and be confident in your recollection of the events to the judges when that happens to you. Because if you're just showing doubt, like you're like, "Oh, maybe he didn't pass," then like maybe you're gonna get in trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just told the story as it happened from my perspective, repeatedly, the same way every time I was asked by the judge. My opponent played Mundo and he gestured to me to pass, and then it worked out. So I don't think,
Okay.
realistically, I think even if no language barrier, if I thought my opponent passed and I drew a card, I'm in Riftbound. I think the rules are just to put it back in my deck and randomize my deck. I don't even think I got a warning though, like because I think it was like the language barrier maybe protected me from getting a warning or something like that. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's not something to be concerned
Okay.
about. If you don't do anything wrong, or it's truly a miscommunication, he said, she said situation, you're probably not going to get in trouble.
Hmm.
It's good advice for anyone, sort of, just to be aware of that. So thank you.
I do have another question as well. Communicating with the judges on your end, was there anybody who spoke English or there was like an English translator?
There was this one judge that just spoke English, and he would just
Okay.
come over when there
Oh,
was a
nice.
dispute for me.
Awesome, that's good. And I guess to lighten up the mood rather than talking about ankle shooting, what were your standout moments, things that you really enjoyed in China? The happiest moments that you had?
Happiest winning, of
Happiest
course,
mo-
was my happy.
Okay,
was my
we'll
happiest
get to the
moment.
winning later, okay? You're not allowed to use that memory. Any other memories? Everything
I'll
apart from
talk
winning.
my top 8. I love winning. It's just gonna be winning
Okay.
related stuff.
Okay, then give us
Going
all
forward.
the wins, including
Ver-
finding non-spicy hot pot.
Yeah, I mean, I think arriving and just realizing that I was gonna be able to play at the first local, and like people weren't gonna be mean to me.
Hmm.
I guess it's not really the type of guy that gets sad when people are mean to me, but it would be a lot harder to play if everyone was being difficult,
Hmm.
right? So
Okay.
arriving and like realizing I was somewhat welcome to participate was a relief.
Nice. Yeah, because I'm still kind of like fearing going to one of the nights to play Riftbound, because I'm like, what if I just literally do not remember what a card does, and then I'm gonna be just like scared to say something. But with you kind of explaining how your experience was, I think it'll be a lot nicer. So I'm kind of looking forward to going and actually playing, and then hopefully I can win something. But I suck, so probably not gonna happen. And speaking about that,
No.
um, the level of experience that players had, let's say, in that local store, like in Statica Forest, compared to the actual tournaments, how would you say the skill compares? Was like anyone really, really good at the local event?
At the good stores, like the best stores in China that I attended, the locals, the good players were like just as good as my top card opponents. So at like Kacha in Shanghai or Statica Forest, my opponents were really good.
Okay, that does not sound good for me, because I'm definitely going to lose now.
Nah, just go. I mean, if you go Statica, maybe those guys
Okay.
are good. But
Okay.
if you
Now,
just go to a random local, you'll be okay.
now I do have another question moving on to more of the tabletop side of stuff, because you said you did a bit of tabletop, practiced a bit there before like China. Um,
Oh, TTS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
TTS. How would you say the skill is compared from the players you played against, or just in general, the current TTS players? Because I know you talk a lot in the Discord and hang out there, and sometimes, sneak and watch some of the games. How would you say the skill is of those TTS players compared to, like, the skill of the players you would find in person? Do you think it's, like, getting there? Do you think it's, like, far behind?
In terms of potential, of course, it's the same. There's really good TCG players in the TTS server. Not knocking anyone's potential or anything like that. However, the people in China are playing tournaments with stakes against other good players. Lots of rounds, lots of game volume, and you just improve at games more when there's something on the line. TCGs have an element of you're weighing the value of taking a risk constantly, right? Your EV constantly. You have to decide like, oh, am I risking my tournament run that I flew to China for on whether or not the guy has a discipline in his hand, right? And being forced to make these decisions under pressure makes you improve. So to answer your question, the best players in China are far better currently than the best players in the Discord server. It's just the way it is. I have a Discord server full of some of the best CCG players that are my friends. I know some people in the TTS server are gonna think that like I'm knocking them or like I'm being negative about their skill level or something like that on some kind of like personal level, but it's certainly not that. Like the Lorcana national champion is in my testing server among a bunch of other DLC champions and really good Lorcana players, and it's clear that I'm far and away the best player in my practice server, and it wasn't the case before I traveled to China. Like it was close before China, and then after China, I came back and I'm clearly the best. I don't think anyone would even debate it, and it's a bunch of guys with egos. So stands to reason that the Chinese players are better than the people in the Discord server. And of course, they have more game volume. There's more players. There's more pressure. It's more of a real meta. Of course, this would be the consequence.
Okay, so what you're saying is Alex is going to travel to America he's going to play a bunch, and then he's going to come back. He's going to be the best player there is. Definitely not going to happen, but I think that would be amazing. But yeah, I really get what you mean. Because like playing in person is just so much different. Like you said, having the high stakes, that's like so important to have as well. And obviously on TTS, people are just playing for fun. So you don't get that, I guess, pressure. And then also the fact that you're on stream, like every decision you make is being watched. I guess that kind of also adds to, I guess, just the overall pressure and like learning how to like play under that, I would say.
I think I don't think it's like pressure though.
Mhm.
Though it's like I can play a Riftlab tournament or something on the weekend
Mm-hmm.
and just full send every high variance line and not even be sad if I lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing against people, like, you know, like maybe I just send the falling star, right? When it would be risky to do it, or like, you know, I do a combat that I wouldn't do if I had a regional tournament on the line, and then the combat works, right? I'm like not really playing Riftbound in a tournament environment then. So I don't mean necessarily like the pressure. I mean like playing in a tournament that you don't care that much about, or like relative to another tournament. It's like playing poker, but like the chips you lose don't matter, right?
Yeah.
Of course you can play like you know show up and do crazy stuff then, right? So
Yeah.
um
I can see where you're going with this, because
Yeah.
ultimately when you've got an event where there's not just necessarily the prize, but you go there to win, and each game that you're playing, you need to advance to the next one. As you said earlier, is this going to cost me this tournament? Is it going to cost me the top cut? I need to make sure I win this and make the correct plays. For example, in Riftbound, if your opponent in a TTS game has 2 runes up, 90% of the time they probably do actually have something. But in a tournament, you're going to think, okay, are they bluffing me here? Are they you're going to perhaps think more of it, or maybe the opposite. At a TTS event, you're just going to go, well, if they've got it, they got it. If they don't, they don't.
yeah,
play it.
that's more my point, right? You can't take if you hop in TTS and you play a set against like a good player in TTS, and you're like a mediocre player, and you're like, okay, 55% chance that I win the game in this spot, right? 45% chance I lose, and you're just playing a one-off TTS game or one-off tournament online that you're
Doesn't
not
matter.
invested in, right? It's easy to take the 55% and say, okay, well, I
Yeah.
just beat the best player in the server, right?
Yeah.
But when your tournament fate is on the line, it's really hard to risk a 55-45.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like weighing the value of these decisions over a long day of Swiss, estimating the skill level of your opponent in Swiss, so you know, like, if I think my opponent's not good, of course, a game looks even. I'm not going to take a 51% chance to win, 49% chance to lose, right? I'm gonna kick the can down the road until I can make a higher EV decision. And this is part of the skill of card games. So
And me
Yeah, I
as
think-
well. Just to interject you as well. When I was playing games on TTS, like you said, I would sometimes think, oh, they could have this, could not have that, and I would just send it and not really care. But whenever I would ever play against anybody in person, I did feel like a lot different as well. Like the stakes were higher. And also what Alex mentioned about somebody potentially being able to bluff and not bluff, you can spot that in person, which is, very different. Maybe let's say someone's passing you focus, and then you might look at your cards, even though you have nothing. That could make the opponent think, oh, is he thinking he's going to play this card or not? And then he would fake it. I'm pretty sure that happened in one of the games that was streamed.
I think I noticed that with one of the Chinese players. He got past focus and was looking at his cards, and you could see the cards. He couldn't do anything,
Yeah.
but he had 2 runes up, and he was looking. And obviously, again, it's like a psychological part of the
Yeah.
game, which I find quite fascinating as a competitive sort of player in general. I think that's quite an interesting thing that I've not seen really utilize in the game that I played before. So it's quite fascinating for me to see that as a potential game advantage in this game.
Yeah, and
I
I
think
also,
that
yeah, you carry
Oh,
on,
go
George.
ahead.
So no, you go. You
Okay,
go.
sure. So I think a big part of these games, like where you have the reaction speed stuff, is you want to pin your opponent on a hand, right? Just like in poker or whatever, or like traditional card games. If your opponent allows a combat to proceed, that he would definitely use a +2 on, like a discipliner and on guard, right? And he has the opportunity to do the mana, and he doesn't. And so you know for sure that he wouldn't have allowed that combat to happen that way. This is a very simple example. You can put your opponent on no +2s in his hand, right? Because he definitely would have done it there. And then, like, you can kind of tell if your opponent's played a new card. if his next turn starts and he plays something that he would have played in the past had he had it, then you knew he played his new card. So you know for the whole next turn, he's got no +2s again. And then you can repeat this over and over again, right, throughout the game until you have more and more information on your opponent's hand. And putting your opponent on hand, like on cards on hand, and what cards are not in hand, it's really important in these games. And not to get into a super meta-specific example, but I've gone up to 3 cleaves in Kaisa because cleave allows you to probe the green player's hand. If you initiate a winning combat for just 1 mana, if they trick, you can trick back. And so you've got information for free by having cleave in your hand. And then once you have that information, it allows other stuff to happen on the board. Because they would trick if they had it, and then you can cleave to break the trick. And then now you know if they didn't trick, then you know they don't have it. Like combat trick, then you know that they don't have it. So I'm starting to learn to value, and I'm reading, I read some One Piece player stuff on Twitter, and I'm starting to understand the value of these cards that give you information in the early game. That's kind of been my latest, the latest I'm improving at in Riftbound, which I thought would be an interesting subject for a lot of the players. What I'm really focused on right now,
Yeah.
trying to put my opponent on a hand.
That's actually really helpful. I didn't think of that. If in that example, if they do have 1 or 2 runes up, you play, say, a 4 might unit into their 2 might student, and you know that I'm going to take this battlefield unless he has a +1 or +2, but I have a cleave to kind of counter that. If he doesn't play it, you're getting the battlefield for free, and you know that he doesn't have any defensive buffs in that 4-card hand, and you could maybe mentally write that down or write it down in, I believe you can write things down in events now, and you go, okay, he's got 4 cards in his hand and none of them is a buff because he will beat me here and I've passed prio. I still counter it with a cleave. Maybe he could actually take that thought process and go, well, he's still got 1 card up, he's probably got a stupefy or a cleave, so I'm just not going to play it, I lose this. So there's back and forth with that, but I like the fact that you could take a lot of information from both players, perhaps, is that he goes, okay, actually I know he's got 1 card up, he probably does have a stupefy, so it's quite interesting.
If you paralyze the green player, though, in the way you've got the point, but if you paralyze the green player out of doing stuff, then you're like the mission's accomplished, right? Like
yes,
in terms of the red-blue side. And I think that you pointed out, perhaps, I don't know if you're doing it on purpose, but this example where the 2 goes into the 4 is the perfect example. Like where you're okay with the trade, but you send a 4 into a 2, so you can gather information like relatively free, right? Or like relatively free information. You're like expecting the trade to happen. So if they force the trade, you're still okay with it. And if they don't have the card to force the trade, then now you get all this information and you win the combat, which is like this information probing against green is becoming something that's a lot more important to me in Riftbound. Seeing how I can build my deck and build situations which will give me crucial info on my opponent's hand. That's been a big point of development recently.
Okay.
So leading on from that then, obviously we were talking about TTS Online, and of course you mentioned about our events as well, the Riftlab events, which we will be going over more soon. We've got one this week. What do you think the meta's like? Because ultimately, we've got our online community per se with the TTS ongoing with the West and Europe and things like that. NA and Europe are mostly playing on the TTS service. What is the meta like compared to the Chinese meta, or perhaps even like in-house metas that you say you've got your private group that you test with? You can compare the two. How do you think it differs? Is there a big difference, or?
My in-house group, starting there, is just mostly like we have stuff we're trying, and then we have the Chinese meta. Like I would say we're a lot more humble in my Destiny Discord than again, not an insult to the TTS community, but the TTS community would be like, oh, China is wrong, this deck is good. I mean, that I don't put much stock in. I think actually when the time comes and a lot of these more vocal players are forced to play in a tournament with stakes, you're not going to see them bringing their fun decks that they were like evangelizing about in the TTS Discord. I think when it's time to put their money where their mouth is, many of them are not going to be saying, oh yeah, it's easy to counter Aurora, just bring this, right? Like this is like, it's easy to say, it's hard to do when you fly to China and you have to play an event, right? Or something like that, or you fly to Houston and it's the first regional, and you really want your first big Riftbound win, I think a lot of these people are going to drop their pet decks and be more realistic, and you're going to see it in their actions instead of their words.
I can tell you the first time I ever won against Jibs, after he actually properly learned the game, was me playing Aurora. So I absolutely love that card, and when the game releases, I will want to have every Aurora possible. So don't hate me for this, but I think it's amazing. I love it. I completely love it. I'm going to have the shiniest signed Misfortune card. I'm even going to do a Garen Aurora deck. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, the card definitely has its appeal to people. So
yeah, and it's like, I'm not good at the game, but if I randomly draw that Aurora card and I can just win something, it's just fun, you know?
yeah,
Not for the opponent, but for me.
Yeah, I think the danger is when like the room becomes like,
Mhm.
not to get into a big discussion about this because I've addressed it a million times, but
Mhm.
the problem is when the room becomes 30% that, right? It stops being fun for you as well when
Yeah.
you sit down and you guys are both playing the Gamba, right? It's like at that point you cease to be playing Riftbound at a certain point, right?
Yeah.
When it's like Aurora versus Aurora. Sure, there's something to it, but it's not exactly like I was playing really close. We have like an in-house Teemo list that we
Mhm.
kind of believe in right now, right? And you can play. We're testing everything, so well, I'll play like KV. I'm usually piloting the Kaisa in like in our server because we want to see like, can we still bring Kaisa or can this deck beat a good Kaisa? And like this Teemo matchup is close right now. Actually, like the Teemo deck is pretty good against the Kaisa, at least especially with the adjustments Kaisa's having to make for Aurora. And we play these games and they're like sweaty. There's like a headache. We have like 3 people discussing what the best thing to do on each side is. And then we'll play like an Aurora game. We're taking like 1 second turns, not even looking at what our opponent did because it's just so scripted.
Mhm.
And for sweaty TCG people, I would say that this detracts from the game. But having some decks which are easier to pilot is good. I of course I have the brains to acknowledge that. Like, you need some decks for people that are interested in the game. They just sit down and maybe they're just like getting off work and they just want to run some Dead Bloom Predator, and slap them on the base. That needs to exist in card games as well. It's just a matter of moderation, and this shouldn't be the best deck or something, right? If it's the deck that doesn't. So yeah, of course, anyone being reasonable should be able to come to this conclusion, right? That the best deck should probably be like the really hard one or whatever, or at least most of the time. But
Yeah, and I also think that right now, because most of the games we played were through TTS, obviously because the game's not out, so most people would want to try out the best decks or whatever, but I have a feeling that if you go to your local game store, not every single person is going to be trying to be super competitive. They're not going to bring the Kaisa Master Yi, they're going to bring more the fun decks, so like you can have an Ari versus Annie, someone loves Lux from League of Legends, so they're going to pull Lux out, someone loves Garen, so I think it'll be so much more fun, so much more enjoyable to play, and I guess there are different communities of players. You've got the casuals, you've got the hyper competitive players, and I guess with like the amount of events that Riot is getting, with like the Rune Nights, the skirmishes that they just announced today, that's gonna have something for everybody to enjoy. So I'm really looking forward to that. And
yeah, it's important to note that everyone's definition of fun is different. Maybe some people like. For me, I could care less if I'm playing against different decks at locals, but a lot of people that means a lot to them, and so I think. Even when you're like hyper competitive, you want to focus on that part of the game. It's important to recognize that some people's idea of fun is just playing against different decks, right? And that's important too.
yeah,
So,
100%, I agree.
yeah, just gotta keep an open mind. People that are not just like you exist. So,
Of course.
especially as a competitive players have the tendency to think everything revolves around them, and I try to avoid falling into that. But when you have a bad Aurora game, it's tough, man.
Well, speaking of,
I got bullied.
Yeah, you got bullied so much when I played Aurora. So he got bullied to the point where he made an Annie deck that was just fully anti-Aurora, and then I just kept losing every time I played against him.
And then I kept getting battered by Kaiser, so it was kind of didn't work out.
I think Annie's got a shot against Kaisa. That matchup is interesting for sure.
Especially I agree. I've been saying this for a while. I think Annie is like low key up there, but I keep getting knocked down.
Well, are you going to be bringing that Annie to America then? Is the question.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, we've not spoken about it, but yeah, there's that big American regional that's come out, that's been announced, and you've got a couple of other events. I believe one's in Colorado and Texas. yeah, me and a couple of friends that are playing, we're also sort of scrimming and stuff and testing stuff out. We're thinking of coming over, because we're all kind of competitive players, and for me, like, I'd love to get involved in the community and the scene, and I think that definitely starts at this point in time in America as well as here. So yeah, I'm excited to maybe plan like a 2 week trip, and perhaps we could even meet up at some point as well. I'm sure if you're going to those events, we'll see one another. Are you
Yeah.
going, George?
My schedule as it stands is I'll be returning to China for the Shanghai Major, which I've been assured that I automatically get into. I don't know how sure the person that told me that was, but I'm gonna assume that I get in. So I'll be back
Okay.
to Shanghai Major in early November, and then
Yep.
I'll be hitting. Oh crap! I think like an unannounced event
Mm-hmm.
in the
Okay.
Northeast, and
Interesting.
then CCS in Atlanta will be
Oh yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
10K that I attend because I like Charlie, and a lot of my friends go down to that one.
Now I have a
So
question. Are you going to be
and then
using?
Houston, of course.
Yeah. Are you going to be using the Chinese cards or the English cards?
As long as the rules allow it, I won't buy a second deck.
Okay,
Uh,
I'm pretty sure the rules
yeah,
allow
I'll
to
put.
play a Chinese deck, as far as I'm
Yeah,
aware.
they just all have to be Chinese, I believe.
Yeah, I'm a couple steps
Hmm.
thinking down the road here where
Yeah.
I feel people are going to buy a lot of Chinese cards because of the shortage, and Riot
Hmm.
may end up changing something. I really hope they
Gotcha.
don't. There's nothing worse than when there's a shortage in a card game early
Mm.
on,
Yeah.
and I think like it will really salt the wound to have the devs be like, the designers be like, yeah, that Chinese deck you bought, you're back to shortage mode or
Hmm.
whatever, right? Like that will feel really bad.
Oh
So I hope
no.
they don't do that, but I'm kind of expecting that.
I
So
honestly
Mm.
have. I don't think everything's going to be fine. Like, people thought that the arcane box is going to sell out instantly to scalpers or whatever, and then they managed to, release it in a good way where everybody could get it and buy it. And I think that when the game comes out, they're going to print enough, very quickly. So I'm having very high hopes that it will be fine.
I
So
wish I lived in the world of enthusiasm and optimism that you live in.
listen, you got to be enthusiastic about everything. You got to think that everything is going to be fine, and then things will be fine. So I'm really hoping that'll be the
Manifest.
case. Yeah, and speaking about different decks, let's go back to your Kaiser that you were playing in the finals. I actually have this really cool book that I'm going to take to. Where is it? It's somewhere here. Yeah. So, um, we have these things called these codex journals. We give them as a prize for our events, because we don't really want to do monetary prizing. We just want to give out playmats, something that players would remember. And we made these books. They're from Codex Journal.
Mhm.
Basically, you open it up. These ones are in Mandarin because I'm going to take a few of these to give away in Statica Forest to players. But essentially, it's just a book that says, for you to review your game. So you can put in notes while you're playing. So just like an empty
Mhm.
page with like the points, who scored what point when, and then over on this side is like a game review page. So if I go over to this other scene here, there you go, right here. This is what it looks like, and I wanted to kind of review your final game that you had, and kind
Okay.
of talk about it, similar to the way that we would do it in this book, because I feel like I come from a background of esports, and in esports you have VOD reviews, you like watch back your games, you practice, you scrim, and I don't really have any experience in card games in doing that. And when I spoke with the Codex Journal guys, that like have been helping put prizes for our events, they kind of made this for people to be able to review their own games, and they've tried to comply as much as they can to the rules where you can actually have this next to you on a tournament and write notes down, and then afterwards learn from it. So yeah, I just wanted to go through this with you, and then just basically talk about the final event that you had in Chongqing.
Sure, happy to do that.
Hell yeah! So let's get it started. This will be like a, I guess, small checkbox interview, and then we'll move over to the more fun questions. So obviously you played Kaiser, which is a Fury and Mind deck, and you were playing against Miz. I don't know how to
Was
pronounce his.
I?
I'm pretty sure you were, because
Okay. I
there
have
was
no idea.
there
I
was a
have
lot
no
of
idea.
there was a lot of Mandarin letters, and then it said Miz. So I just took the
Okay.
word. I just took the letters
My
that
bo-
said Miz.
my boy Miz, all right.
Your boy Miz. So we're gonna call him Miz. And then I also saw in an article that they called him Miz. So I assumed that we're just gonna call Miz.
Oh, I trust you. I just had no idea.
Let's put
There's a
opponent.
lot of assumptions going
Let's
on,
put
but we'll go
opponent.
with it.
So
Wait, no. I wasn't being difficult. I believe he's Miz.
so the opponent was playing Master Yi, which is a Calm
Uh-huh.
plus body deck. Now, pre-game expectations. Is it the first time you're playing as a deck?
No, I alluded to this earlier that in Beijing, Top 64. So it's my 2nd day
Mhm.
2 in China. The third tournament is the one that I won, which is where this finals match occurs.
Mhm.
In Beijing, I sat down and my opponent plays a 2-drop on Yi, and I'm like, okay, it's pretty normal. And then he plays Catalyst in top 64, and this deck didn't exist yet, like the ramp Yi. So I'm like, am I playing against Aurora? What's happening, right? Like, and this is top 64, so I'm facing elimination. And game 1, I get cooked. Like, I forget about Dead Bloom Predator somehow. Like, I'm like thinking about too much about Aurora, and like I lose like 2 units to a Dead Bloom or something like that. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm so bad. So then game 2, I'm like, I cook him really fast because he misses his 2-drop. Like a win really fast. And I'm thinking like, oh, he sided into Aurora. And he misses Aurora. And I just won easily. That was great. Because there was this deck, like this was popular kind of in the West, like side decking into Aurora, where it was like becoming a trend. So I'm like, okay, game 3, I'm playing against Aurora. I do all my side deck choices and my mulligan choice to play against Aurora. And the guy just plays a normal game against me. And I'm like, I can't believe this happened. And so I lost in top 64, out in 64 against Ramp Yi. I didn't know what the deck was, and it caught me by surprise. So, first time against this deck? No, I was prepared. I was prepared for this.
Okay, so I guess the next question: did I enter the game with a game plan? I assume probably.
To the extent that I was prepared to play the tournament, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think I had a special game plan for finals or anything. At this point in the day, I was sore, I was tired, and I've got into it on other podcasts, so I won't elaborate like too much because it will sound whiny. But playing on stream was literally impossible. Like, whatever you think the difficulty of playing on stream was there, it was 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a game plan until my Chinese translator was like 10 times more quiet than the Chinese judges that were talking over him. So difficult to say the least. I'm already going into it.
Yeah.
I had a plan, but it was very difficult to play on stage.
So I would say let's call this having a basic idea.
Yeah, having a basic idea.
Okay, that would be fair. Okay, and then next up, how did you feel going into the matchup? Were you prepared, familiar with it, rusty? Okay,
yeah,
amazing.
I was prepared.
And I guess what you just said now, playing that one random game in top 64, fully prepared you, which is amazing. And then your matchup favorability, is it a free win, favored to you, even, unfavored, very difficult, considering you're playing Kai'Sa versus Master Yi, which we actually saw a Master Yi just win an event as well.
Kai'Sa versus Ramp Yi. The top Chinese players say it's 40-60 for Yi. Unanimously. People don't really disagree on this.
So I guess it would be more of a favored kind of towards you,
no,
right?
No, 40-60 for Yi.
Okay.
Unfavored.
Unfavored.
I think that the matchup is even for me.
Okay, well, we're going with even.
I would agree with that. I think once you have a bit of experience and know what you're expecting, and you can side deck into it and put some of your own pressure units, like things like Sprite Mothers, to quicken the game.
I don't know that I like Sprite Mother against Yi, but I don't know that we have any good side deck cards really for this matchup. I think we're pretty maxed out for Yi in the main deck. I think like there's some new stuff people are trying, but at this stage, like when this tournament happened, the only thing I was doing was side decking into the third cleave, the third smoke screen, and like I was just like maxing out counts. I didn't have anything spicy for this guy, so I tried to talk some of the Chinese players up to 45-55. I was like, the matchup is like 45-55. Like Kai'Sa's not 40% into Yi, and they're like, no, it's 40-60 at best. So my opinion, closer to even. The general opinion in China at the time was the matchup's very unfavored.
I guess
I would say then overall unfavored, right?
Yeah.
It depends. I guess it depends on how this book goes. Is it how you feel? Because if you feel even, we just stick with even, right?
I think it's how George would feel, and also he has the creds to back it up. So
yeah.
I had a feeling that I didn't think I had less than 50% chance to win the finals.
Okay, sick. And then next up, did my sideboard have good tech for this game?
I had the third Darius and the third Cleave and stuff, and the third Smokescreen. I wouldn't call those cards techs, but my sideboard definitely existed with you in mind.
Okay, good. So I guess we'll call that a yes. And then the actual match outcome was a win for you. It was a 2-1 win, 3 rounds
That's right.
taken. Did the match go to time? Did you go overtime
No.
at all? Okay, it did not.
No.
Now, reflection on the rounds. So, any standout moments, any surprises, errors, and any notable decisions that happened in this match?
There are some errors.
Mhm.
Most of them due to like the difficulty of playing in a stream environment that I was in. There are some mistriggers on both sides, meaning like some procedural errors. I haven't actually watched the games back, so I don't know if I made any mistakes. But
Mhm.
I think when I finished the games, like if I was making this review right afterwards, my opinion would be that I played really clean, given the circumstances. But I'm sure if I watched it back, I would have maybe a different opinion.
Okay, awesome. I mean, that is always good to know that you think that you
Um,
played really clean.
Notable things. I started game one with 2 mana, and so there was like a Mundo in my hand. I missed my obelisk, yeah, due to
Was
missed
that
obelisk, so it was 2 to 4. And I saw there was a Mundo in my hand,
Oh.
and like Mundo's usually not great against you, but it was on, and I was able to like start discarding cards and trade off a lot in the early game. And my opponent used a charm early game, 1 charm. And if you watch the VOD back in this game, he uses his second charm, one of my reload turns to like kill one of my base units. I solve the Mundo, and I'm like so happy when he uses the second charm. Charm counters Mundo for the green player, right? They can close the game by charming him back to your base.
Mhm.
So he used his second charm, and I'm like, oh my god, like this Mundo can stick and win me the game. And then I look happy on stream when he uses the second charm. And I know I do because I was like, he did it, and I was like, oh yes, I can win. And then, of course, he burns the second charm, and somehow get a Noxus hopeful in the base, and I slam the window, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna win. So I think
was
that's like,
sorry to interrupt. Was your game plan revolved around starting with that Mundo in hand, or did you draw into it?
no,
Did you mulligan into it?
Mundo's not. I think I mulled into it, or I had to mull other stuff. I probably mulled into it realistically based on, or I drew it in the mid game. Not really sure. I don't remember at this
Mhm.
point.
Okay.
Okay.
But it was my Zon game, so it's the one game where Mundo's viable into green, right? Because I was on
Mm.
the Zon discard battleground to feed the Mundo. So yeah, I mean Mundo's not usually the best against E, but if they waste 2 charms and everything works out perfectly, then you can get a big fat Mundo, and that's what happened.
So I guess in terms of the context of this game, I would say that Mundo was a pretty standout card.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
Potentially.
like in this game, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like the strategy against E, it's
Mm-hmm.
not like a standout card in the
Mm-hmm.
matchup, but
Okay.
in the set, Mundo certainly won a game. So I
Okay.
mean, he
Okay.
deserves his mention.
Okay, I get. We'll put it in the standout cards purely because of this, because context matters. In this game, Mundo did help. Were there any other cards that kind of stood out to you and kind of helped you?
I, my opponent really disrespected Smokescreen in this set,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly. Like he was
Mhm.
just running stuff in. I believe like a Fey Folk and a Yi died for like a full
Mhm.
turn for 2. I like skipped his turn for 2 mana basically because of the way he played. So
Okay.
I think his hand. But I've been told that I had, like I said, I've watched a VOD, so I've been told after his hand was just where he had to do it. So no disrespect to my opponent, but
Mhm.
Smokescreen was really great to put him in a catch-22 scenario. Then, if that was his only option, and he ran out his only option, and it was just to die to a Smokescreen,
Mhm.
and Smokescreen was definitely a standout card.
Okay. And were there any cards that you played with that didn't really match your expectations? Something that you thought would be a lot stronger than it is, and it didn't really perform the way you wanted it to?
Hmm. I think outside of in Chongqing, I was ready to cut Void Seekers,
Mhm.
which is controversial,
Mhm.
but I decided to bring Targons and try. So there's this problem with Void Seeker where you play it and you get like tempoed by Unyielding Spirit, and you get
Mhm.
tempoed by Defy.
Mhm.
Like you lose 3 mana for 1, and I was like, man, I just don't want this to happen to me anymore. They have 6 outs to it in the main deck. I mean, sorry, in the main inside.
Mhm. Okay, so I guess we'll
And
put a Void
sometimes,
Seeker.
yeah, sometimes Discipline
Mhm.
also counters Void Seeker in the same way.
Mhm.
But I decided to bring it for one more tournament with the Targon Speak deck. Because you use the Targon's mana to go even,
Mhm.
like 1-1 with the counter cards. And so, like, Void Seekers was lackluster, but
Okay.
it had its place in my strategy for that tournament.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess when I used to play Unyielding Spirit against Jibs, every time he would play something, I would just play that card, and then he'd be like, "Ah, shit." Didn't expect you to do that,
Yeah.
and then it was just so fun every time. And one of the first games that I ever played as well in on TTS, I had like the perfect hand. I was about to like win, and then my opponent played Unyielding Spirit, and the next turn it was the exact same. I had like the best hand, played everything, and then Unyielding Spirit. I was so sad, and then I just lost because of it. So I definitely do
Okay.
hate that card. um, conclusion wise for this, did this game change how you view the matchup?
I'm thinking. Perhaps it gave me like a little bit too much hope in my favorability in the matchup because I won finals, right? So like your big wins, they stick out more to you,
Mhm.
and I think probably it slanted me more to believing in Kaisa than maybe I should be.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to switch decks after you win, so I think it influenced me, but maybe not necessarily for the positive way. I do like my plan going to this tournament, as I like alluded to, was on my going first game. I wanted to use Targons to trade down. Um, so if you Void Seeker with your Targon's
Mm-hmm.
mana, they unyielding. They spent a power and 1 mana, and you spent 1 mana and 2 Targon's mana and no power because you have Kaisa, right? So you're winning the trade. Um, theoretically, if the opportunity presents itself. And my plan was to use my Targon's mana to trade down their resources in hand and trade down their mana for this tournament. That was my going first strategy. And moving forward, I think after this tournament, maybe not necessarily in this game, but after Chongqing and after my experience immediately afterwards, I started to develop this idea that it's better to just make those cards dead in their hand versus trying to spend them down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it changed my view. You learn from every game. So
Okay.
Cool. Interesting.
Well, in terms of that, let me actually go back to the other scene. Do some. Oh, there we go. I guess with that, thank you so much for filling that out with us. That genuinely gave us a lot of insight. I learnt a lot from speaking to you, and I'm pretty sure that Jibs has as well. And hopefully you take
Yeah,
a lot of
thank you.
these teachings and what you've learned into the events when you go to America. And hopefully we can win some stuff here in the UK as well when the actual events come out. We're going to be playing a lot of the game in November, streaming a lot of it. So I'm like really, really excited. I think the Western release is going to be awesome. I want to say a big thank you to you, George. I really appreciate you coming on, saying hello to us. Really respect that you just full sent it to China, that you managed to win. And then you're basically representing, I guess, everybody. And also the TTS community on Discord, the Discord community there, since you're so active in there, talk to everybody. When you weren't or were on screen at all, everyone would screenshot and be like, oh, look, it's our George playing. So everyone was super happy. So I
yeah,
guess you're
I
a
guess
star.
want the opportunity. I know I argue in there a lot with
Mhm.
people, and like sometimes I'm opinionated, but
Mhm. I mean, everyone has opinions, and
for the most
yeah.
part, I really appreciate the support that came from the community when I was in China. There's no reason the Discord had to rally behind me the way they did when I was competing, and it felt great to have that. Like I was alone in China, but when I opened the Discord, there was tons of support, and that felt great. Can't overstate that.
Yeah, and I was so excited to watch as well when I knew that you were in the finals. It was just, I was literally going to bed, and then I'm like, oh wait, George is playing. So I like set an alarm. It's like 5 a.m. I'm about to go to work to do a broadcast, and I'm just there tired the whole day at work because I was
Oh,
watching
I'm
like
sorry.
you play.
But
Yeah.
I
This is
appreciate
your fault,
support so
George.
It's
much.
your fault, George. If something bad happened on the broadcast, it's your fault.
Yeah, but no, it's yeah. To echo that, it's been great insight, and yeah, just to kind of confirm to everyone that's watching, we've been talking about the Discord server. Not everyone that is watching is on there. There is a community Discord server which will pop in the comments for this video that people can
Mhm.
hopefully join the server. We can grow. It's a really good community where everyone's sort of sharing insight, playing games as well on TTS and other programs as well. And yeah, hopefully that will continue to grow. And what's also great on there is a chance for us all to communicate these events that you're talking about, and plan to either meet up or where people are staying and things like that, which I think is cool as well, especially for me, traveling over the pond. I'm planning to go to these events in America to stay in touch with some people that we can meet up, go for dinner or something, and yeah, have a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I pushed hard for these this events thread channel on
Mhm.
the community Discord server. So make sure you guys use that one so I look smart.
It is really good. There's already so many in there, which is amazing. And speaking of events, one thing me and Jibs are planning, basically when the game releases in November, well, October 31st, basically 1st of November is when we're going to be doing a lot of stuff. We're going to be going around the whole of the UK, going to a bunch of different cities, and we're essentially just going to host a small tournament in different LGSs. So we'll go to like different cities like Nottingham, we'll go to London, we'll go to Manchester, Telford. We'll try and go for as many cities as possible, and then just stream a tournament, see if there's any talent out there, and then just provide content for people to watch a bit of in-person games. I think that could be really fun. And then we'll try and give as good of a production as possible, and then get that content out there for everybody. So stay tuned for that. We're probably going to do a lot more in-person stuff rather than TTS, and then any webcam stuff as well could be awesome. Because once we have the physical cards, I just want the physical cards, pack openings, everything. It's going to be a load of fun. So I'm super, super excited for the release. And with that, that's going to be the end of the podcast. If you look down below, you've got the Twitter ats of everybody. Make sure you check George out. Support him where you can. Hopefully he's going to win more events.
This is so complicated.
Yeah, right there, down below. So GeorgeG_TCG. Check him out. Give him a follow. Support him where you can. Next time you see him on stream, if he's at one of these major tournaments, support him. Right in the Discord. Rally behind him. Same with Jibs. Jibs UK, co-host of Riftlab. He's going to be helping out a lot. And also, I guess, running our Riftlab team, just so we have a cringe fun jersey at the events, because having a jersey and playing in it is fun. And then me, Jacob, who tries to do the production stuff, sometimes end up on camera and I never know what to talk about, and then I just start talking randomly. But that's really it. Thank you so much, George, for coming. Thank you so much, Alex, Jibs, for being here as well. I guess any closing words, any last things you want to say before this just goes?
Thank you for having me. Shout out to everybody who's been so supportive, and I really think that your community effort in traveling to different stores in the UK is a good idea. Like, it's going to be a growing pain switching from the TTS community to the physical TCG, and I think that's a good way to start. Like, just going around the UK, seeing what's going on, and hyping up the game.
Yes, and we're going to bring a bunch of goodies for everybody. So I've been making my own tokens, actually. They're like these glass things, so I'm going to give them out everywhere I go, and I have a load of these available, so they'll be given out to anybody in the UK, so watch out for those. They're also magnetic, so you can put them on your fridge if you want to. But with that,
if you're inclined.
With that, thank you everybody for watching, and I guess we'll be back next time with another guest, but I don't think we can top George, so maybe we'll just talk to George again in like 2 months when he wins something else.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers, guys.
See you.
Thanks, George.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.